BlackRock now owns 2% of all of the Bitcoin supply, all at a time when Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, is talking about tokenizing assets on a mass scale. And right now, we're seeing Wall Street traders heavily moving towards things like stablecoin investments as well as tokenized asset investments. Right now, real-world assets have gone from being worth just $5 billion to being worth over $15 billion a year later and are showing no signs of slowing down. Therefore, I think real-world assets are some of the most underrated cryptocurrencies out there with huge potential towards the upside. I'm going to tell you about 5 altcoins in the real-world asset class that I think are going to see significant moves in the coming months. So do me a favor, hit that like button. Let's get into today's video. Now guys, it's worth understanding before we find out about those 5 coins why real-world assets are probably such an undervalued area of the market. Now firstly, BlackRock, who've been talking about Bitcoin for a while, never really liked it that much, suddenly turned a 180. They then started talking about Bitcoin, they then started talking about ETFs. They launched an ETF back in the earlier part of this year, and since then they've invested around 0.2% of their entire assets under management, giving them now a 2% control of Bitcoin. That's right, only 0.2% because BlackRock is actually worth $10.2 trillion, which is nearly 5 or 6 times bigger than the entire crypto market that they hold. And that's why Wall Street traders right now are following the money. They're going along and starting to move in the same direction that BlackRock and other big banks are doing. It makes sense, right? They're placing a bet on what is coming up next, and that's probably what we're going to try and do as well. But not only have BlackRock been buying into Bitcoin heavily, but it's also what Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, has said about the tokenization of assets and the impact that BlackRock will have on tokenization of assets in the near future. Take a look at this clip where you hear Larry Fink talking about the benefits of blockchain and the merging between TradFi and DeFi.
We could rid ourselves of all issues around illicit activities about bonds and stocks and digital by having a tokenization. But the most importantly thing, we can customize strategies through tokenization that fits every individual. We would have instantaneous settlement. Think about all the costs of settling bonds and stocks. But if you had a tokenization, everything would be immediate because it's just a line item. And so we believe this is a technological transformation for financial assets. I believe if you want to talk about voting and voting choice and all the things, if we know every moment who is the owner of that stock and it's now time to vote, every individual who has ownership is identified and they can vote their own shares.
We've also heard Sergey Nazarov, the CEO of Chainlink, one of the oldest real-world asset platforms in crypto, talking about the fact that real-world assets will flip cryptocurrency as a whole during this bull market in terms of total value. And he's saying that it's not because DeFi is going to go and kill off TradFi, but more that TradFi is going to turn into DeFi and merge together. That merging of the two means that the traditional finance money is going to start flooding into that particular space of crypto more than any other. But why is no one talking about real-world assets and everyone's talking about games and memes and AI? Well, you've probably heard me say this before, because those things tend to be a little bit easier to understand in that they have nice bright colors and nice pictures, because I still don't understand meme coins. But obviously meme coins, the big ones, will continue to run. I think a lot of the crappy small ones will start to die off, but who really knows? Anyway, back on track. Let's get into those projects. Now, before I talk about these projects, some of them, you'll notice, have bigger market caps and others have smaller market caps. And I will often see when I make a video, lots of people down below being like, oh, this market cap is way too big, I'm not going to invest in that. That's an absolute newbie error. Sorry. Don't mean to make you feel crappy about yourself, but if you just back small market cap coins and don't hold any big market cap coins, and you probably found this out recently, when Bitcoin takes a little tumble, if you're holding the bigger market cap coins, then guess what? You don't get hammered. You tend to do all right. If you're holding the small market cap coins, things can get very painful very fast. But to be honest, I think the real world asset large caps have more of a likelihood of doing like a 10 to maybe 15x than some of those small caps that you're betting on, where you're like, oh, well, it's going to do a 50x or 100x, when there's actually a good chance that it does a 1x or maybe just goes to 0. Okay, so don't be afraid of backing decent quality big market cap coins, because they can make you some money and then you can use that money and reallocate it to riskier stuff down the line. So first up, Ondo, partnered with BlackRock, relatively large market cap, but still pretty small if we consider that real-world assets could be flipping the rest of cryptocurrency in this bull market. So whilst yes, Ondo does have a market cap of like $960 million, it's not really that much when you consider that BlackRock itself has $10.2 trillion to its name and is partnered with Aerodrome Finance. This kind of makes for a bit more of a positive outlook on the potential of coins like this. Now, Aerodrome Finance is basically working in the narratives of real-world assets and DeFi. And you're probably like, well, what's a real-world asset really mean? Well, for example, you can tokenize all sorts of different things, whether that be traditional stocks, like an Apple stock. And the benefit of tokenizing it, as you probably heard Larry Fink say, is that you basically get instant execution on trades. You also have the ability to invest in partial shares of something. So, for example, in some of the biggest stocks like Microsoft and Apple and Tesla, where some of those stocks are over $1,000, it means you can buy partial shares in those particular stocks, which is a benefit here. There's also lots of other assets in the world, such as buildings and expensive paintings, that previously you had to buy the whole thing, like a whole Monet painting or a whole Picasso or whatever. Now, effectively, you might be able to buy those and split them up into different tokenized assets where you can own a portion of a painting or a portion of a hotel or something like that. This adds a huge amount more liquidity to the market, flexibility, and all that other good stuff. So Ondo right now can be found on 11 different layer 1s, ranging from Aptos, Arbitrum, Ethereum, Polygon, Solana, Sui, you name it, okay? Over on DeFiLlama.com, you can also see that Ondo is backed up by a big amount of total value lots, currently $641 million. And continuing to grow all the time. It has one of the most experienced teams in the kind of real world asset niche with like traditional finance guys, backed by big players, etc. Where does this go in a bull market? Can it go towards $20 billion, $30 billion? I don't see why not. With companies like BlackRock behind them and the potential for real-world assets to really come into this market and tokenization to take over, there's no reason why some of these bigger market cap coins can't really dominate the space. Also, what looks good is that Ondo has been pulling back more recently. You can see after kind of a recent significant sell-off that came from earlier hype in the year, you can see it went down around 67%, which still was pretty good compared to how the rest of the market reacted to that time. It's now starting to show some volume as re-entering the market and offers a good potential opportunity for an entry. I would anticipate that somewhere down towards 50 cents is an absolute steal, but anyway, you can see under this price up here is pretty good value, so we're looking to maybe enter in here if you wish. I personally don't hold any Ondo Finance, and mainly because when I was starting to make my real world asset bets, which is up here, Ondo seemed pretty expensive, having gone up a lot already. But when we come across to the next one, you're going to realize that that mistake I made on Ondo was a pretty costly one, because Mantra, or OM Mantra, is a $1.19 billion market cap coin, and at the time we first covered it on this channel, it was around $400 million. And since then, you can see that Ondo has been pretty much heading up in a straight trajectory towards the upside, which is pretty ludicrous, really. Now, while Ondo is partnered with BlackRock, Mantra is partnered with a $500 billion real estate giant based in Dubai. Now, Mantra is a purpose-built layer 1 designed for real-world assets and tokenization, designed for DeFi products to be built on top of it, as well as real-world asset platforms, etc. They're heavily focused towards regulatory compliance, and this is obviously very key when we're talking about real-world assets, because traditional finance are heavily limited on regulation. Whilst crypto is starting to get regulation, traditional finance has been regulated for years. This is therefore an important part. If you want these real-world asset platforms to be able to flip and to become the future TradFi, then it's going to have to be under heavy loads of regulation. It's built on the Cosmos SDK and is a sovereign proof-of-stake blockchain. And very recently, they've also had their mainnet launch, which is probably why we've seen the price accelerating towards the upside so significantly. Now, in terms of the current price of Mantra, I personally don't think it makes for a very good entry at all. Obviously, I was wrong in the past because I said the similar thing when we were down here on a previous video. And look, we get a good push towards the upside. But ultimately, you don't really want to be buying in after these big pushes. You're much healthier buying in after dips like this or dips like this. If we see Bitcoin continue to kind of go sideways and whatever for a bit, then maybe there's a chance that Mantra comes down. Somewhere around $1.2 seems to be good value. You can see it got bought up here. There is obviously great upside again for this particular token. Again, I would bracket this with Ondo as like blue chip kind of level real world asset platforms. The possibility to go towards $20 billion and therefore a 20x is probably still out there for these particular coins. And if you want to go and pick up these two coins or any of the coins I've talked about today, then go to Bitunix, which is linked down below in the description. doesn't require a KYC, doesn't require a VPN, has some of the lowest fees across crypto. Also, they continually offer airdrops for people who are trading and active on chain. All the different coins that I'm talking about on today's video are either already listed there or will be listed extremely soon. So if you want to go and find them and you want to be able to access all the coins that I talk about on my channel, then they're all available through Bitunix, link down below in the description. Now onto the third and final larger cap coin, but one by no means that you should be missing out on, and that is Aerodrome Finance. Now I do personally hold a little bit of Aerodrome Finance, and I'll explain to you why I do in this short segment. Aerodrome currently is worth $823 million, which is pretty high, but it's basically the central trading and liquidity marketplace on Base. Now, why would I want to hold this coin? I talked about this in a portfolio update video I did just a few days ago, but ultimately, I like exposure to ecosystems that are showing good strength. Base is obviously the blockchain of Coinbase. During a bull market, Coinbase is one of the major exchanges that everyone goes to. Why? Because it's regulated in a lot of different countries that are now finding it really difficult to access different trading exchanges. Whilst personally I don't use Coinbase because it's incredibly expensive and really limited in terms of the number of coins and things that it has, it's pretty obvious that a lot of people will arrive into crypto and they will be trading on Base. Therefore, if Base as an ecosystem starts to get huge growth in money coming into it, the ecosystems underneath it tend to thrive. This one in particular is starting to thrive because of the growth on Base. Like, just look at it. This is the TVL on Base chain right now. You can see the volume on Base chain is also soaring towards the upside, often having days of around $1 billion in volume. Therefore, it makes sense to me to invest in a real-world asset platform or real-world asset token that is on this particular platform. Now, again, we've seen quite healthy price action from Aerodrome. You can see that it got a lot of excitement and hype earlier on in the year. This was when we first started to hear about real-world assets and everyone was getting hyped because BlackRock was making some of those big promises. BlackRock will inevitably do this again as the bull market moves on. And when we get that news about tokenization and all those other good things, this is all going to flood into the real-world assets area. Okay, so this benefits not only from real world assets, it also benefits from the Base ecosystem. You can see it had a very healthy sell-off from this top all the way down 81-82%. And you're like, well, it's because all the VCs were selling off. You're probably right. And VCs do tend to sell off in periods of time like this, but guess what? When the market gets bullish again, what do the VCs do? They put that money back into that project so that it starts to pump aggressively, and that's why we've seen this happen here. Now, from this chart pattern, and this isn't necessarily going to be a trading one, okay, you can see that there is an area, we have a nice W, typically prices come back to retest the top of the W, you can see it there. If Aerodrome comes back down into there, it's a good buying opportunity, in my opinion, which obviously doesn't count because I'm not a financial advisor and I'm not qualified to give you that advice. So my opinion is basically just an opinion, and it's only here for entertainment. Don't take it as financial advice. Do your own research, invest in what you wish. Either way, can this do a 10x? Can this do a 20x? I don't see why not. If Ondo can do it, Mantra can do it. One of them is more than likely going to do a 20x. Which one? Yeah, it can't be sure. I think the Aerodrome probably has the best bet. Slightly smaller in terms of market cap, but also that exposure to Base. But I've been wrong before, I could be wrong again. Now guys, I know you haven't come here to hear about billion-dollar market cap coins, even though I just told you earlier on why investing in massive market cap coins can be slightly more beneficial sometimes than investing in small market caps. I know for most of you out there that just went over your head and you're like, give me the degen stuff, okay? Just feed it to me. That's all I want. Well, okay, you waited your hard time for this. Let's get into that. Now, first up, from our slightly smaller cap plays today, Clearpool, with a market cap of $132 million. And if you don't think that's small cap, you're in the wrong game, okay? This is not a meme coin. These are projects that are going to be the future, potentially, of traditional finance. Now, Clearpool is a decentralized credit marketplace where they offer tokenized DeFi loans. You can also lend money to the platform, and then this money is then given out to people in the form of loans, where you'll earn a high interest yield on those particular assets. Then by lending, you can also borrow against the money that you're lending, etc. Okay, this is a whole kind of DeFi ecosystem project. They've been recently partnering up with different ecosystems, recently being added to Base and to Avalanche. They're backed by pretty much the biggest names across crypto when it comes to VCs like Wintermute, Sequoia, and Hashkey, which should give you a great deal of confidence in a project of this size with those backers. Now, in terms of total value locked, you can see the total value locked has been increasing significantly from around $2 million to $3 million earlier on in this year, and we've seen a huge flood of liquidity onto the platform, now being around $20 million of total value locked. We can also see the staking and borrowing and things like that also starting to increase, which is a positive sign for a coin like this with a market cap around 130 million. And this is a coin that I do hold in my portfolio that I talked about on a video the other day. And I hold this one because I want exposure to not only big market cap coins, but small market cap coins within this same narrative. Yeah? That's why I have the Aerodrome, this world, to give me the exposure, because I know whatever happens, the Aerodrome, Ondo, and Mantra will all go up significantly, but maybe not as much as if I get one of my calls right and I nail like a Clearpool that could go to like $10 billion market cap plus, which would give me like a 70x or something up and down around that area. And I also hold a couple of other real world asset coins that I'll talk about in a moment. Also, recently, Clearpool have unveiled their Ocean blockchain supported by Optimism. This is to revolutionize DeFi by integrating real world assets into a compliant, user-friendly manner, enabling users to earn a native yield on-chain automatically. It's kind of like the future of DeFi, with all those DeFi platforms that kind of weren't doing particularly well in the last bull market, or seemed to do well because everyone wanted yields and then they all went under. This is like a more user-friendly product. Okay, so towards the top of bull markets, I can imagine lots of people will be starting to look for yields on-chain in safer environments, and these are basically the platforms that are going to provide that. Now, last but not least, and again, a token that I do hold with the smallest market cap today is Maple Finance, ticker symbol MPL. Now, typically when I make a video like this, down below people are like, well, why don't you hold this coin and why don't you hold that one? Typically, it's because I've come across these maybe sooner rather than other times. And also, what I try to do as we go through this video is I show you the details, stats, and information as to why I hold them, okay? This is a really important thing to kind of note. I wanted to cover this one particularly because it has been running very strongly recently, but there's a reason it's been running very strongly. And if you use this information, you can obviously invest in this if you wish, I don't care. Or you can use the information I'm going to teach you from this, and you can go and find other small cap staking lending platforms. Now, Maple Finance, you can see, has a market cap of around $157 million. Kind of similar in a way to Clearpool as a platform in terms of what it offers, but you can see, coming across at the TVL is absolutely surging towards the upside right now, and the TVL is $157 million, which is really pretty high. It's nearly the same amount as the market cap is showing here. This, for me, is a very positive thing, particularly when it comes to platforms like these real-world assets, staking, and lending platforms. TVL is pretty much their lifeblood. They have good, strong TVL kind of growth. It shows that people are actively utilizing that particular platform. It's a bit of a no-brainer to me that a project like this that's showing good growth of TVL is a solid investment if it's got a smaller market cap, particularly because these smaller market cap coins are showing the same kind of strengths that maybe we saw in the early days of Mantra, the early days of Ondo. Again, Maple Finance is partnered with a $1 trillion firm, and that again is a kind of a key aspect of all these real-world asset tokens. Maple is an institutional capital marketplace operating on the blockchain, and they're basically building the fastest growing RWA lending protocol. As a user, you can inject liquidity into various different pools and earn rewards by providing liquidity to the platform. Maple is also backed by institutional investors, and that allows for them to be able to offer higher than normal yields for individuals because they are backed by significantly more capital than perhaps some of the other platforms are out there. They've partnered with other RWA projects like Jito and Pendle, both notable projects that you can go and take a look at. Just didn't have time to fit them into this video. And they're also going to be introducing staking in mid-November, which is obviously a positive thing. Now, I've been talking about Maple for months on this channel. I've been talking about real-world assets every now and then when I think that you really need to start paying attention to them. And notably, we've been able to get into Maple at various different times during these kind of lows here. Now, Maple has performed incredibly strongly in this bull market so far. You can see it had a very strong run back at the end of last year, had a very strong run again when the real world assets started to take off back in April, but since then hasn't really seen significant pullbacks. You can see 60% is not really that significant, similar to what we saw in Ondo and others. Now you can see that in recent weeks we're back up about 46%. We now had a little bit of correction. Now, typically when you see these big candles like this one here, you can look for a 50% zone. If we get a pullback down to around $20, I think that Maple could be a reasonable entry. But if you zoom out a bit and you can see where it was in the top of the last bull market, there is still significant upside potential to move back up to there. I do think, again, 100 mil market cap. I don't think it's insane to anticipate $15 to $20 billion for pretty much all these different platforms. Maybe we get bigger from Ondo and Mantra because they are already that much more established. Who knows, okay? I'd be happy to see this go towards like a $20 billion market cap or more. Obviously, that would be a significant upside on the 100 mil market cap we're at right now. Good 20x or more. Now, guys, you might have realized that a lot of these coins were slightly better value a few months ago. And if you missed them because you weren't watching my videos at the time or weren't subscribed, then make sure you subscribe. But also, there's a good chance that as this bull market kicks on, if you're only finding your information from YouTube or Twitter, you're only going to be able to find coins that are already like halfway up a spike like this. So really, if you want to get better and be able to make bigger gains in crypto, you really need to find a system yourself where you can find entries into coins before they go and run like this. And there is proven sustainable systems and proven free tools that you can use to identify these coins before everyone else starts to talk about them. And I want to teach them to you. However, it would take far more time and effort during a short YouTube video that I decided I wanted to do it in a masterclass. Therefore, there's a link down below for a crypto masterclass where I'm going to teach you how to find small cap gems before they go and rocket up 30, 40x, maybe even more, so that you can get into small cap crypto coins before people start talking about them on YouTube and Twitter. This masterclass is absolutely free. It's on the 2nd of November. Find the link down below. You simply need to go down and leave your email address, your name, and if you want, you can ask a question, and you'll then receive a link on the day so that you can enter into this masterclass. If you're not able to attend, then don't worry. There will also be a recording that is sent to your email address, although we are only accepting a limited number of spots, so make sure you register early not to miss out on that. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, do me a favor, hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, then make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you very soon in another video. Bye-bye.